Thank you. I just want to first off thank everyone for coming today. It's great to have the community leaders. You people always have the concerns. You listen to the concerns. We want to have three parts to this meeting here today. We want to bring you to get fully engaged in a roundtable conversations for the first hour. Then have note takers from the mayor's office at each table to ensure that we have proper follow-up with each and every one of you. Some people come to these town hall meetings, 7 people ask a question, everyone doesn't feel engaged. The mayor wanted to make sure that we listen to everyone's concerns, make sure that we have these roundtable conversations. There are no cards in front of you, so in case your question doesn't get asked, there will be proper follow-up. Within 48 hours, everything will get recorded. We'll have proper follow-up with everyone that raises an issue, concern. We'll give a copy to police headquarters, to the agencies that have those concerns, as well as their local precinct. And this way we have proper follow-up directly with the mayor's office as the middleman. Again, and then now this third component is having your questions, the main topics, 2-3 topics per table that were raised, asked to the dais, to the mayor, and we're going to start off with the mayor with some opening remarks, the district attorney, and then open it up, go table to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I was told Assemblywoman Annette Robinson is here somewhere. She left. Okay. Real legend in this community, and to the team that's here, State Senator Jabari Brisport, Assemblymember Stephanie Zimmerman, Councilmember GOC, and as I stated, Assemblymember Annette Robinson, who really groomed all of us that's in this business, in this game. And so I know we all sat at tables, but at the same time, before you leave, just introduce yourself to at least 20 more people who were not at your table so we can get to know each other more and more. And let me say this. I want us to lean into what we agree on. We have really started leaning in too many times on the things that we disagree on. But when you sit down and do an analysis, you can find the person you disagree with the most and tell them, write down 20 things you agree on, and you write down 20, you're going to find out that you agree on more than what you disagree on. We are spending too much energy on the numerical minority number of things that we dislike instead of the things that we like. All of us in this room believe that we were successful in the 100,000 summer youth jobs that we put in place. Everyone in this room agree that we should be doing dyslexia screening with all of our children and dyslexia screening to Rikers Island inmates. Everyone believes that we should have put the hundreds of millions of dollars into child care. Everyone here agrees that what we did about maternal morbidity, particularly with Black and brown children. Everyone agrees what we should do with our education and investing in education. And everyone agrees we have the best police commissioner in the entire country. So I'm saying that to say, when you really look at it, we agree on so much. And we all agree that this gun violence is taking too many family members. We can't live in a city where 50 people are shot. We can't live in a city where young people picks up a gun faster than they can get an iPad. We can't live in a city where we are seeing this violence every day. Every day, the commissioner and I are stopping at hospitals, meeting parents, just about every night, picking up our phone, going over the number of young people who are losing their lives if they're the victims of the violence, or losing their lives if they inflict the violence. Because there's a loss on both ends of the spectrum. And when we speak to the parents of their children who commit violence and the parents of the children who are the victims of the violence, you see the same level of just despair. And that's what we want to accomplish, and that is why we're here today. It is time for the adults to engage in this conversation. And we're going to do this again with all young people. All young people. They're going to all come in the room. They're going to sit at the tables like you're doing. They're going to engage in the conversation, and they're going to speak to the top end of our administration. And if you haven't noticed, you see how diverse my administration is. You see how diverse it is. We need people who have gone through a lot to help people who are going through a lot. Every one of the men and women who are at this table have a life story to tell you. You see them now in their glory, but you need to know their story. You need to know about Adonis Rodriguez coming here, not being able to speak English, and going through the CUNY system, fighting on the CUNY grounds, and taking over the campus to fight for CUNY students. You need to know about Gary Jenkins, who's in charge of HRA, but formerly lived in a homeless shelter. You need to know about the work that Sheena Wright did in the United Way. You need to know about the work that our park commissioner did in Prospect Park to equalize the park so you won't have one part of the park having great trees and great benches, but she went to the other side of the park to make sure it was fair. Everyone here has been vetted to make sure they're going to carry out the agenda that we want. But we can't do any of that if we are living in fear. We can't live in fear in our city. And we're not going to go back to the days of heavy-handed policing that just because of your ethnicity, you were stopped, searched, frisked, thrown up against the wall. No, we're not doing that. But we're also not going to tolerate the over-proliferation of handguns and violence in our city, the robberies. We were out in Bed-Stuy the other day with a grandmother walking across the street with her grandson, was struck by a vehicle and killed. That's not the city we want. And that's why we're doing this, to hear from you on how to come up with the ideas to make sure the city's a city for all of us, a fairer city, and have the right partnership. We could not ask for a better partner in the area of public safety than my friend and partner in the district attorney's office in Kings County. Eric Gonzalez has been a close friend, a partner, and brings the same level of energy that we all bring to this conversation. So we're going to open the tables for conversation, but I do want to turn it over to District Attorney Eric Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone, and let me start off by thanking Mayor Adams for hosting today's conversation, to our police commissioner, to all the deputy mayors that are here tonight, to the public safety team, to all the commissioners, and most importantly, to all of you. Thank you for engaging in this conversation. You know, as district attorney, I've been very clear that the obligation of public safety is a dual mission. The police, the prosecutors, we play an important role, but the community has to play its role. And I believe as district attorney that we often need to listen to the community better and have a public-led conversation about what safety and fairness and justice looks like. And so I'm here today to introduce myself, but really to listen to the conversations. I also think it's important to acknowledge what we've accomplished in Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn is going through a renaissance. You know, gun violence spiked nationwide in 2020, and it definitely hit my beloved Brooklyn really hard. But last year, at the end of 21, we were down 20% in shootings in Brooklyn. Most people don't know that. In fact, 20 of the 23 precincts were down. This year, as we're continuing to face this gun violence epidemic, this public health crisis, half of the reduction in non-fatal shootings took place in Brooklyn this year. And so we're continuing to make progress. We're down another 17% so far this year. And it's important that we acknowledge the successes that we do have. Also, you know, the work that's been happening behind the scenes, the coordination between my office, our violence interrupters, our crisis management systems, but now also with the mayor's office and his public safety team. It's conversations that are taking place every day, figuring out how do we keep Brooklynites safe, New Yorkers safe. We all understand that it's really a really small number of people who pull those triggers. It's less than 1% of our population. And so we're working really hard to do intelligence gathering and sharing of information so that we can do and be effective on how we do this. Last week, I put out a plan. It's on my website. I ask all of you to look at it. It's my Stop Violence plan. It's doubling down on the things that have worked in this county. It's a complement to what the mayor has released on his gun violence plan. And it's also to do some of the additional work that my office is doing. I really ask you to take a look at it. But it's adding more senior prosecutors to deal with gun violence, fast-tracking our cases through our gun parts, but also looking at data and technology. And in Brooklyn, we have a program that's coming out in the Bedford-Stuyvesant area in the 7981. It will impact this community directly, a restorative justice program where $2 million is being done so that we can get young men to put down guns and work on building life skills. It's in here. I ask you to take a look at it. We're going to talk about it more. But these are kind of the other solutions to gun violence. These are things I'm very proud of. We also have the first of its kind digital evidence lab in Brooklyn. We spent $1.7 million of forfeiture money taken from drug dealing and other bad actions, to build a state-of-the-art digital evidence lab that's going to allow us to work with the police, to do gun trafficking cases, to figure out and help us solve past historical shootings. This lab is one of a kind. It's been certified by the Secret Service and other labs. So far, that lab has led to 16 convictions in the county, but also 4 people who had been wrongfully charged by my office. Those cases were vacated, dismissed, so that we prevented wrongful convictions. The evidence proved that they didn't commit those crimes. So this is not my host. I'm going to sit down on this issue now, but I want you to understand that every day the mayor's team, the police department, my office are working to solve some of these problems. I'm real clear on this. We know how to do this work. We're going to continue to drive down violence in the county. We're never going to be satisfied just by lowering the numbers. We're going to be satisfied when our children can go back to our parks and play without gun violence. They can go to schools without guns going to those schools, and we can be on our subways and trains. Thank you, Mayor, for hosting us and giving me an opportunity to say hello tonight.
Excellent. Thank you. And now we should start off with the Q&A portion. We'll start off by table 1, and we'll start off with the note taker starting off.
Well, before we do that, we in the house of 3 amazing principals, so Chancellor Banks is not going to allow me to sit here without acknowledging them. Please stand up, Principal Harrison, Farrington, Anderson, and Ms. John. Ms. John. You know, these are amazing principals, and just to hear the stories of what they're doing for students in the school, we just want to thank you for just really being connected and allowing us to use this space.
Thank you. So we'll start off with table 1 with Malcolm.
Good evening, Mayor. How are you? From this table, most of the issues were, well, the 2 hot topics is the NCO roles, NCO roles are changing. How do we make sure that they are there for the people? That's one. And the other one is how much of the budget can be used for the betterment of our people, knowing that $1 billion is for the police, and yet $1 million is for a job training program.
The commissioner will go into the NCO program, but when you look at this budget and the amount of money we allocated to unprecedented resources going to children and families. The increased dollar amount in the reduced fare MetroCard program. Never before numbers were reached. As we stated, everyone allocated for summer youth employment. First time in history, we have 100,000 summer youth employment jobs. The amount of money we put in earned income tax credit, first increase in over 20 years, first time it has ever happened. The amount of money we put into child care resources, our numbers are the first time in history it has ever happened. What we have down, as I indicated, dyslexia screening. When you look at this budget, you are seeing that this is a budget on behalf of people who have been in need and ignored for a long time. The police budget remained flat. And not only that, this commissioner has done something that has not been done before. She's looking at how police officers are deployed, particularly around overtime at friendly events, utilizing our auxiliary police and others to save taxpayers' dollars. And so we are using taxpayer dollars appropriately and putting it on the ground where the services are needed. Police Commissioner, you want to talk about the NCO?
So thank you for that. So the NCOs, while some of their responsibilities are enhanced, their true role never changes. NCOs took that job and we put them in that position because they want to work with the community. That's what they're best at, and we can't do anything without our community. So while our initial mandate and our role is to fight crime, our NCOs will still be connecting with the community because they play a vital role in our connection to the people that we serve. So while we are redeploying some assets, please rest assured that these NCOs want to do this job and they will continue to do that job. I'm in a very fortunate position, and I know it, that I have a tremendous chief who works here, Chief Judy Harrison, who's at the end of the table. She's amazing. Absolutely one of the most compassionate and dedicated chiefs I have the pleasure of working with. So we will make sure that they are where they're supposed to be and we do not lose that connection with our community.
Excellent. For table number 2, Anthony.
Good evening, Mayor. This was a very energetic and interesting group who are very active and have taken more of the approach here in the city of New York of fighting and not fleeing from what they're experiencing. So I want to commend them for their participation in civic responsibilities. Many issues came up: iron pipeline, quality of life issues, drug, homelessness, mental illness. So if we had to really try to put it into the form of a question that they had with a common theme, it seems like they want to find out, are there any plans to open up more lines of communication to orientation and services where the communities can help to combat quality of life and enhance and assist with public safety concerns through the administration and through the NYPD?
Can you just drill down on that? Hold on, Connor. Drill down on it just a little more. Like, give us some ideas on what you think we could do to enhance that communication.
From the group.
Yes, from the group. I hope so. Well, you're speaking on behalf of the group.
I was going to pass the mic, but no.
You can pass it. If one of them have the idea, we would love to hear from the group. Just some ideas on what we could do.
I would love to pass it, and I'm not playing favoritism, but the term activism came up, and there were longtime residents within their neighborhoods. I want to pass it to you.
Mayor Adams, yes. I would like to know what we can do to help you get to a point where all of us feel safe in our city again.
Thank you, and I like that question. Number one, we have a large number of crisis management team members here. Can you just raise your hand if you're not standing? These are all of our crisis management team members who have been on the front line doing their thing for a long time. But to answer that question specifically, and I appreciate that question, number one, communication. what our communication director is going to do. Every week, we send out a video. It must be a 45-second video of everything we have accomplished for that week. We want to now get that out to block association, community groups, et cetera, to keep you up to date, because the sensationalism sometimes that come across on our front pages is not the reality that's playing out every day. And we begin to believe that we are in a defeatist place when we're not. There's some great victories we are making, and we want to start allowing you to get information that's unfiltered, that's coming right from the administration. Number two, we have something called Breaking Bread Building Bonds. We did it in Borough Hall as the borough president. We want to do it again. 10 dinners. It was 100 dinners across the city, 10 people at each dinner. Every person come from a different ethnic or cultural groups, and it did something revolutionary. It had people talk to each other. We would like to have 1,000 dinners across the city, different places, restaurants, parks, at your homes, wherever, and just have us get together and talk to each other. Because many of us don't know who lives on our block. We don't know our neighbors. We don't know people who we stand next to all the time. And so we want to encourage the good people of this city to actually interact with each other. Third, see something, say something, do something. Something simple as you see a car parked on your block with paper plates. You see what we did the other day about these illegal plates that are being used for guns and for crimes and for robberies and other dangerous things. Just reach out, speak to your NCO, and allow him to, use the intelligence to identify, the criminal element that is living among us, which is the small number of people among us. And the more you volunteer, participate in your precinct council, participate in the community board meeting, participate in the block association meeting, start up a block association. The more organized you are, the more organized we are going to be. And so you participate as a citizen and inform and communicate with us, we can turn around not only crime, but turn around the conditions of our city. And I like that question that you answered. And everyone should be asking, what can we do for each other to make this a better city? Thank you for that question.
Excellent. Table number 3, Lamona.
Hello, Mayor. As you see, I'm sitting at the table with the educators you mentioned. So, of course, this table is focused a lot on the youth. Number one, they wanted to know why weren't any of the youth at this town hall, but I think you answered it earlier. You're going to have your own. Also, they're concerned, they said that the police see the effects, at the cause of crime against youth. However, the educators see the effects of it. And they don't have programs in the schools. They want to know what you're going to do in terms, some of their budgets were cut, so they wanted to know how can they get programs in the school. And also, how can they protect children coming from school and going home when they themselves can't even afford to live in the neighborhoods where they're teaching? Police had said something to one of them like, oh, the kid was shot, where were you? So they want to know, why are they being treated like this and they can't even afford to live here? And can we change the language? One of them said from public safety to stewardship, because public safety sounds like we're reacting to a lot of things. Stewardship sounds as though we're in a preventative mode. And can we have a conversation about that? And lastly, street lights. They're saying the street lights are dim. The police lights that are on the corners are too bright. They're facing in people's houses. The children can't sleep. So what are we doing with the street lighting situation, not only in Brooklyn North, but in New York City? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lamona Knight, who's in our CAU unit, did a career in the police department. Thank you for your service there. Affordability is crucial. Do we have anyone in our, is Jessica here? Affordability is crucial, particularly housing. We're trying to get the federal government to do what they did years ago, the Officer and Teachers Next Door program. My home on Lafayette Avenue, I got because I went through that program and we were able to stabilize the block. We would like to see officer teachers next door program and first responders, our nurses, our doctors, et cetera. We have been meeting with some of the business leaders, and we try to navigate the politics of accomplishing it. But there's some large business leaders that are looking to do reduced rent in some of their units for first responders in the city that want to live in the city, and we're trying to navigate the politics. Navigate the legal aspect of it, and if we're successful, we're going to roll that out. But we also want HUD to get in, our federal government, to reintroduce the officer, teacher, first responded programs to encourage those civil servants to remain and live in the community, because affordability is crucial. We are hemorrhaging black families in this city. That's the largest population that we're losing in the city because the city is no longer affordable to them. And we want to do everything we can to make sure the city remains affordable. We have an amazing housing program through Jessica Katz, the chief housing officer, to make sure we build as much affordable housing as possible, but not only for civil servants, but for all New Yorkers, and we're focusing on that. Words matter. And so we would like to get a focus group to sit down with the commissioner and others and see what words we're using that are antiquated. If public safety is antiquated, let's think of other ways to do it. So we want to hear it, and we need to share that success together. I thought I heard you say there was an interaction with a police officer about after a shooting. If someone is not speaking with you appropriately, don't suffer in silence. Don't suffer in silence. Don't sit back and say, well, that's just the course of doing business. No, we don't accept that. Reach out to the CO, the commanding officer. Reach out to the police commissioner. Reach out to our office, our CAU. We must know customer service. You are our clients. You pay your taxes. You deserve that level of customer service, and that's what we're going to foster, that customer service. So don't accept anyone treating you in a disrespectful manner or interacting with you in a disrespectful way. That stops. That stops in this administration, and I hope every administration that continues, we rebuild that customer service that's needed.
Next table, we have Mohammed Bahi.
Good evening, Mayor. Had an amazing conversation with our table. Actually, there were some tears shed, very passionate, emotional, amazing group of people. One topic that seems was the main issue here was that communication with NYPD and our city agencies. A question is that the table and the group was very concerned on the lack of community-minded agency liaisons to help local communities connect with agencies and resources. A lot of them have made amazing examples that they'll just call 311, they'll direct them to a number, press a couple numbers, and they'll get a voicemail or a robot. And a lot of them don't even know who to connect with. So, that was one question. The second question, Mr. Mayor, is the concern for zero to little programs and funding for the youth, which in turn correlates to drugs, gangs, and crime. One of our brother here mentioned actually a local culinary school and building where it was open, used to feed thousands of people every week, but now it's closed. That was the question, sir.
Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright.
Good evening, and I also want to acknowledge our Commissioner for the Division of Youth and Community Development, Keith Howard, and I'll kind of also turn it to you. We are making unprecedented investments in this administration and this year in our young people. We've invested over $100 million in the Summer Youth Employment Program, over $240 million in Summer Rising, which just started this week. We are increasing our Saturday Night Lights program. We're adding 25 additional sites. We're going to be looking to build new community centers. We know a lot of the community-based organizations were hard hit by COVID, and so we're also increasing and strengthening our nonprofits. We're creating a new mayor's office of nonprofits to give them more technical assistance, capacity building, and resources. It is one of the keys to the upstream prevention activities is our youth development. So we are squarely focused on it, and we want to welcome your input, your ideas. If you see opportunities in the community where you think that there would be a good activity that would be enticing or a developmental opportunity for young people, we want to hear from you and partner with you to create those opportunities and experiences for young people.
So one of the things that you said that was very critical is that we have to open up communications, okay? And this is one of the focus that the mayor and the deputy mayor has charged with DYCD. And we're gonna go around to all of the CBOs to make sure that they are messaging programs and resources, you know, to the parents and to the stakeholders. So I agree with you. We need to open up communication. We need to do a better job. As the deputy mayor stated, there are a lot of programs, a lot of investments that we have done and that the mayor and our team has done. You just haven't heard about it, and that's our problem. And we need to correct that.
And you know, I remember my brother over the summer months. He was out in Brownsville. What was that park? Betsy Head Park. Out there in the summer months, you had around about 200 children out there playing football, soccer, etc. It was not a city program, it was his program. He took his time to come out and say, I'm going to create a safe space for young people. I went out there one night, it must have been about 11 o'clock at night, and those children had a safe space to be. Oftentimes, we make these suggestions, but a suggestion starts with you. People, although we're going to have a program like this for just young people, there was no sign on the invite that said you could not bring a young person with you. Think about it. So when we start asking, Eric, what are you going to do? It should start with, Eric, this is what I'm doing. Because this is a partnership. And if we want young people in our midst, then we need to invite them in our midst. Because we all know young people on the block that many of us may be walking by not even saying hello to, or not handing out a summer youth employment job to, or not finding out, are you in school, what are you doing? We have become afraid of our young people. People who see me walk the streets, I stop and engage them. And so, yes, we want our young people engaged, but it's not the city's job alone. It is all of our job. So start a little program on the block with 10 young people. Teach them financial literacy. Teach them how to tie a tie. Teach them how to shake a hand. It starts on a granular, hyper-local level, not this 20,000 feet, because they're not going to see the mayor on every block, but they're going to see you on every block. So let's get local with this. Now, here's what we're doing also. We did it as the borough president. We did the extended use program. Some of you may remember what we did. We went to the small local nonprofits and said, you should not have to pay to use our school buildings. You should not have to pay to use public spaces. We're going to pay for you, and you just give us your human capital. You come in, you want to do a small program for young ladies or young men, we will pay for it. We're going to do that again. So if you want to use a school building, you should not be paying for the school safety officer, for the janitor, for the insurance. No, all we're asking you is to volunteer, get the program, make sure we vet it to make sure it's right, and we will assist you in using the space of our school building. That's how the chancellor feels about using, this is your space also, not only for 7 to 3, but throughout the entire year.
Excellent. And from a community affairs standpoint, our office, the person who is the Brooklyn North Director, Tony Herbert, is our Brooklyn North Director. We have a Deputy Commissioner, David Lewis, and we have a whole staff in the Mayor's Office Community Affairs Unit that's fully engaged. The first thing I did when I became Commissioner of Community Affairs, I reached out to every single community board throughout the city as a first act, because this was true partnership with the local-based communities that listens to concerns. Like this room is filled with leaders who run organizations, and you are so committed. You need to know you have a partner in the Mayor's Community Affairs Unit that listens to your concerns and makes sure that the leadership in the city of New York listens to your concerns, and that's why we're here. Now we'll move on to the next table. Karen, Cherry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. and on behalf of this wonderful table with these pillars and kings and queens, they would like to thank you and your administration just for coming out this evening to start this dialogue and conversation. So, should we turn some of our themes into questions? One, can we create tailored approach to policing for each community, utilizing community voices to guide process? That's one. Two, can we look into how to fund the precinct council so we can be effective and be more effective to the district? Can we examine each neighborhood lighting, tree positioning, to create more visibility, to be safe in each and every neighborhood? And last, how can we strengthen the partnership between the schools, the NCOs, and the CBOs? Thank you.
So I'm going to take the police question, so thank you for that. And to your point, that's why we're here, to get the voices of our community. Far too often, we go to a community and we say, hey, this is what we're going to do for you. But we need to ask you what you need from us. And that's why we're here. So every community is different. I mean, we all want the same things. We want to be safe. We want to be able to go to the store. We want our children to be able to go to school. We don't want to have to worry about someone accosting us on our way. But that may look different for each community. And that's why we're coming to you to find out what you need from us. Because I can tell you the resources I have. I can tell you my plans, but you need to tell me what you need. And I will always listen for that, because that's how we make this work. There's no other way to do this. To your other point, I'll answer the last point, and you can talk about funding or the schools as well. Where you talk about, I talk about all the time, and that's pretty much like crime fighting through environmental design, community enhancement through environmental design, making it more difficult to get out of a park in case you want to do harm to someone in that park. So that's something we definitely want to look at on our end, and we can work with the communities and the construction to be able to make that happen. So about the schools or the funding, I'll turn that over to the Chancellor if he wants to discuss that.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Don't everybody answer at the same time. Good evening, everybody, family. It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, I just want to say that I'm very appreciative of this mayor to lead this city at this time. Leadership matters. When you're in the middle of a crisis, and we are in the middle of a sure enough crisis, particularly as it relates to gun violence, you need to know that you have the right person at the helm, that everybody else can rally around. And I believe truly that we have the right leader. That's the reason I came on board to be a part of this administration and to lead the work at the Department of Education. So the mayor has set the tone. An engagement like we're doing here tonight is the first step. But what the mayor also holds all of us as his commissioners and his administration to is what's step 2 and what's step 3 that you are doing after an initial meeting like this. And so the police commissioner and I are engaged in conversations, but what we want to do is take this work to an entirely different level. We will never be able to police our way out of the situation that we're in. The police play a role, but as the mayor has said, it's about how we engage as a community. And as the largest school system in the world, we have a major role to play. And so as I heard from table 3, I think all of the ideas that came up, we have to activate on all those ideas. So the mayor acknowledged that the 3 principals are here. I wanted to also acknowledge and ask to stand the superintendents who are also here tonight. Please stand up. We've got at least 3 of our superintendents who are here. And it's important, and the reason that it's important is because they are overseeing the work of the principals. Each one of them has at least 30 to 35 to 40 schools that they oversee. And so what I would say even to the police commissioner is what we want to be able to do is to make sure Dr. Khalid Kirkland, right, who is now the superintendent in charge of Ocean Hill, Brownsville, right? But Dr. Kirkland, stand up again, because the point I need to make is important. But what's more important than the applause is we have to make sure, police commissioner, Dr. Kirkland knows Chief Harrison, right? So that the police and the heads of our schools all know each other and are in further conversations that happen after this meeting, where they can go much deeper in creating the solutions that are needed, where the students are actually at the table and are part of helping us to create the solutions. Because the young people themselves will tell us the way out of all of this. But it's up to us as an administration to lay out the framework for all of that to happen. That's what the mayor has charged us with doing, and that's what we are committed to doing. Communication and collaboration will be the key for us creating the solutions that will help to resolve all of this.
Well, that'll go back to, if I can jump in here for just a second, because the chancellor is absolutely correct, because the mayor has said that we're not working in silos. So we have to coordinate. And we say all the time that public safety is a shared responsibility. And that goes back to the point that was made here. Who can the CBOs contact when they need something from the NYPD? And you should have a person, a name, a number, an email address that you can reach out to get an answer. And that's what we have to do. And if that's not happening, then that's a phone call to my office, because that needs to happen at the ground level, hyper-local, with the chiefs, with the precinct commanders, with the supervisors, with the community affairs officers. You should have someone you can reach out to when you need assistance.
My amazing chancellor has given me a mandate. He and I agree that the work of Brownsville cannot be done at a desk. Very clear. Only thing that he's not doing is giving me gas money, which we're going to talk about privately. But I would be remiss if I didn't shout out to you, Terrell Anderson, Inspector Terrell Anderson. Day two of me on the job, we sat down for over an hour and a half. We have a plan for District 23 and Brownsville. Stay tuned.
And see, that's the quality. Terrell Anderson came from Brownsville. Now he's back in Brownsville. And so I don't want it to be lost what the commissioner and the chancellor are saying. I don't want this to be lost, because historically, if you were to ask previous administrations how many times the chancellor and the police commissioner communicated, they probably could count on one hand. What we are saying is that the community stakeholders, the commissioner must know, the superintendent must know every precinct commander within his superintendent space. They must know who's in charge of the Department of Sanitation to clean the space. They must know who's ACS. They must know every doctor present, every president of every hospital. They must know every clergy. If you're an NCO and I go to Pastor so-and-so and he said he doesn't know you as an NCO, you should not be an NCO. So what we are saying, you need to proactively go out and know what's the team. We're all one team. So when Chancellor Banks go and speak to his superintendents, and he can't tell you every precinct commander within his superintendent location, something is wrong. If he can't tell you every community leader, if he can't tell you all the resource asset mapping that he should be able to tap into, and that's what we are given the charge of all of our leaders. My precinct commanders, when the principal walks into a precinct, they should not be saying, "Who are you?" They should already know who she is. You understand what we're saying? We're saying it's time for us to unify all of our assets and work as a team, not these silos where everyone is territorial and everyone is saying what's not their problem. No. This is all of our problem. We're all in this together, and we need to use all of our resources to solve this problem. All of us are together. Those are the teams that we are building.
Next table, we have Superintendent Jenna Schwartz.
I don't know how I got the mic, but I got this job, and I'm grateful to have this job. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Janice Ross. I am the proud superintendent of Brooklyn North High Schools, which is boys and girls, Nelson Mandela, our two principals over there. So welcome to our home. I had the amazing opportunity to work with this gentleman, Mark Rampersant, as a facilitator. I'm sure you guys all know him. When you want to talk about safety and security, this is the gentleman for New York City Department of Education who has been leading. How many years you've been in the system? Oh, I'm sorry. I was told I shouldn't embarrass him. But I do want to say, Mayor Adams, that we have a student at our table. We have Emily, who is an honor student who her grandmother brought with her today. So there you go, right? Yes, let's all clap for Emily. I think. So that's okay. So we have two questions. The first one is, what is being done for the oversight of the homeless shelters in the neighborhoods? There's a lack of oversight in the homeless shelters, which is resulting in, I want to make sure I get this correct, the residents of the homeless shelter who require the mental health and the community services not receiving those from the very people that are supposed to provide it to them or who are being paid for it. So there's two issues. It's the oversight of the providers to the homeless shelters and the oversight of the actual homeless shelters. Okay, so that's number one. And the second one is supporting our seniors in our communities. And so this was a very big topic around seniors being priced out, being bullied, harassed by landlords, the safety and security of the seniors in the neighborhoods that I had the pleasure of speaking with these individuals here. Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins, HRA.
Good evening. I'm going to stand up because I'm stretching my legs. Really good. You guys look so good out there. Give yourselves a round of applause. So seriously, looking at the homeless shelters, since the mayor appointed me on January 1st, I've been making sure that I personally been going out to those shelters unannounced to actually ensure that the services that are required by our providers are being served, right? Sitting down and not just walking in the locations and then walking out. I'm speaking directly with the residents, really understanding how can we do better? Not walking and looking at the contract saying this is what they're supposed to be doing, but how can we do better? What services are needed from the city? So we're having those conversations with the providers. I'm doing it on a day in, day out. It's not as though it's a one time. I'm hitting the shelters. When I leave here this evening, I'm going out and I'm really drilling down to speak to our homeless brothers and sisters. Can't lead from an office, can't lead from 4 World Trade Center. I actually need to be out there because I actually understand what it takes and how it feels to be homeless, because my family was homeless at one point in time.
Yes, you may. Get a mic.
If I may. The issue was not that the services are not there. They're there, but there's no accountability to the services of the homeless shelter and the oversight of the providers that are giving the services and the actual homeless shelter individuals or workers. There's no accountability. That's the issue. So they recognize the resources are there. It's who's getting the resources and who's holding folks accountable to the resources and to the individuals.
So if I may, I'm holding them accountable. We are looking at the activities that's occurring there, and the commissioner for DSS, I'm holding those shelters accountable. So the buck starts and stops with me. I know it stops with the mayor, but trust me when I say this, I'm holding the providers accountable.
And listen, and we agree there's some providers that we're not pleased with. The quality of their service, the product they're producing, and that's why the commissioner and we have been doing spot checks at homeless shelters, seeing what's going on outside. So we want to make sure that the service providers are giving the right product. And we also want to reach out to, we're trying to look at how we can pull in our faith-based leaders and allow them to be a part of providing the services for those who are dealing with mental health issues, homelessness, because we believe we can get a good product, make sure that we're paying them for their services. And so we have been meeting with faith-based leaders to do something differently. But the mental health is a big piece, and we have Dr. Fasan that's here, who used to be with Fountain House. Doctor, you want to talk about some of the mental health stuff?
Thanks so much for the question, and it is truly an honor to be here with you in community, and thank you for welcoming me and welcoming us to your community. The intersection between homelessness and mental illness, substance use, is real, and the numbers are clear. It is on the rise, both before COVID and especially exacerbated due to COVID, and the isolation that we've all felt to some degree, but that has really fallen on those folks disproportionately. And so, one of the reasons I'm proud to be a part of this administration is that dealing with the issue of serious mental illness requires stubbornness. It requires a consistent engagement. There are no quick solutions. It is not about opening up more psych beds and having more teams, and there isn't a quick fix. It's about continuously trying and trying and trying again. The subway plan and the street outreach plan that the mayor launched from the beginning of the administration under Deputy Mayor Williams Isom and in collaboration with so many of the agencies around here, and especially Commissioner Jenkins' team, is really the embodiment of that stubbornness. Tens of thousands of interactions with New Yorkers living on the street, living in the subways, many of whom facing challenges of mental illness. And over the months that we've been in office, thousands of those people have decided to come inside and stayed inside. The yield may seem low, but it's because it is an incredibly intractable and difficult problem to solve. It's why we haven't solved it yet, and it's why administration after administration has kicked the can down the road, and this administration's not doing that. It stops with us. You heard the accountability that Commissioner Jenkins just spoke to and that the mayor's spoken to. This is going to stop with us. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take stubborn persistence. It's also going to take us building alternatives and the kinds of projects that the mayor just mentioned. I worked at an organization, Fountain House, that provides a place for people living with mental health challenges to form community, to break isolation, and to heal to whatever extent that they can heal. It may not look the same for you and I, but for them, it's a better alternative to living on the street, and it's a better alternative to being in and out of our hospitals. Certainly, it's a better alternative than being in and out of our jails. And so, over the coming weeks and months, you'll see us making those kinds of commitments and those kinds of investments in building out more of those projects and combining that with our street outreach work to really start to make a difference in a really intractable and stubborn problem that we're all facing across this city and across this country.
Thank you for that, Doctor. And I believe our Commissioner of the Department of Aging is here. Lorraine, are you? Is it on?
Now it's on. We are your partner in addressing this issue of housing, affordable housing for older adults. And we are your partner in that. But our best partner has been the mayor so far, because the mayor put together a housing plan, which included, for the first time of all of the housing plans that this city has put together, it is one that asked, what are the housing needs of older adults, and how could we address them, and give us some innovative ideas. So we're on it, but as Dr. Hassan said, this will take time because it's been kicked down the road for too long. But we are your partners in that. And if there is any landlord any landlord, any organization that is harassing older adult tenants, I'm going to give you a number, and you call that number. We will take them on, and we will take them on with the full force of this department as well as our partners in public safety. And the number is 212-244-6469. And when you call that number, you will never get an avatar. You will never get a voicemail. You get a person. And you get a person to help you navigate anything you or your family member needs for aging services. We're committed to make sure that this is the best model, global, age-inclusive city in the world.
Excellent. Nick?
And we're going to, I don't know if we have something now. Do we deal specifically with those landlords? I know you had something, those landlords who was harassed. I believe you had something in your office. But we're going to take what you just shared with us, and we're going to go back and see how we use the Human Rights Division, the Police Department, the DA's office, to target those who are harassing older adults. Because, it's against the law to illegally evict. It's against the law to harass. And I don't think there's enough attention on zeroing in on those bad acting landlords. If we have a couple of them do perp walks, I think a whole lot of them would stop doing this. And so we're going to zero in on that. And also, I think we're going to change the Department of Aging to the Department of Older Adults. Change that name.
Excellent. In the next table, we have Andrew.
Good evening, sir. We had a wonderful conversation with parent educators, TA presidents, and even a basketball star. The first question we have for you is, how can the city be more proactive rather than reactive to new and emerging issues that are affecting the community? The second question is, how can we more efficiently and effectively get services out to those most in need?
Well, that's a sort of a broad question. So what we should do, we said this over and over again tonight, we want to be partners. And so we're hoping that some of you will break off into little subgroups and give us recommendations on how we can do it better. You're the recipient of our delivery of services. And if we're not delivering those services better, we need to hear from you what is a better pathway for us to carry it out. For example, it blows my mind how many people who are eligible for WIC and SNAP don't sign up for it. We want to find an easier way to sign people up. We want to become mobile in doing so. We want to become mobile in those who are eligible for a reduced fare Metro card, but they're not applying for it. So we want to figure out, how do we deliver those goods and services better to you? And if you have a response, can we get the microphone back over at the table? You can share your thoughts.
Good evening.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Oh, you still remember my name. Thank you. No, I had to come. But one thing I have to say, this Boxing and Learning Center been fighting for the longest time, and it started with Sergeant Woods at PSA 2, and now he got a promotion. So I still have to carry this fight. So you trying to say about stop gun violence and stuff? A good way is to get the Boxing and Learning Center in the old daycare center at Van Dyke. The money is there. This way will save a lot of kids. We can take the kids from 7 on up. You don't have to wait till they get 15 and 16 and try to tell them something. You got to tell them when they little. So I had to get up here. Somebody got to listen. I ain't come here to talk about my intercoms and the lights throughout the, that's important, but this is more important if you talk about saving youth. Not just boys, girls too. So I had to say this. So all this talking, let's do some action. I'm tired of talking. I've been talking for a long time. I'm tired. It's time for some action. Thank you.
So, Lisa, stay with me. This is a center that's currently has been. Give it back to Mike for a moment. This is a center that has been closed.
This is the old daycare center that has been closed for years. And it's underneath probation. Probation supposed to have it. They have the money. And it's underneath Neon. So the
Okay,
money's
so
there.
we have Anna, you know about it? And notice you said this has been a fight for years. I've been mayor for months.
Yeah, but you've been the borough president, but I just didn't hit you with it. You've been
Okay,
hitting
so
everybody
you know what I'm
else.
saying? You know? So you don't know what you don't know. You don't know
No,
what
you
you
didn't
don't
know, but now you know.
Yeah, that's right.
And being that we have the general manager from NYCHA sitting at the table with us, what they have to do at first, and I've been telling them, they got the G and the F line got a leak. So fix the leak, and then you can fix the place.
So let's find out. We have.
I want
Anna's
people
here.
to start doing some work. If
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
some work, we can get some work done. And I
Okay.
guarantee you will save a lot of children's lives.
Love it, love it. You familiar with the commissioner?
Yes, I am. We are dying to get this going as well. So what I will do is go back. I don't know, Sharon, do you have any specific info on this? We have my deputy commissioner here. Yes.
Oh, give it a mic.
Yeah, it has been stuck on a couple of things that I know. But let me move this forward because we're dying to do this.
Hold on,
Yeah,
Lisa,
no, we're
hold
gonna
on.
get it done. Don't you worry about it because it is a very important project for us to do it under our neons and for our youth. Absolutely, no question about it.
So no, Lisa, she's one of our stakeholders for probation for our neon. We are in the process, they're still working on it. I'll talk with Katrina, but from what I've heard, my update with her on her 101 is that it's starting to move again. So I'll get with you so I can give you a better update, okay?
And
keep
Sharon,
you
let's,
in
and
touch.
we will find out what's holding it up because you're right. This has been in the works for years now.
So Lisa,
and so we need to move it.
Lisa, this is what I want you to do. Tomorrow we're gonna talk, and I'm gonna bring in a team. We're gonna list out what's preventing it from being open. We're gonna do a list, because I'm a list guy. We're gonna do a list. Here are 4, 5, 6 things. And we're going to dismantle each item on the list, and we're gonna open the center. It's gonna get done under this administration. We're gonna get the center open. Yeah, we're gonna get the
Listen,
center
I'm going to
open.
say thank you now, and I'll say thank you later.
Right. We're gonna get it open. We're gonna get it open. So
really, it would change
so-
a lot
so-
of kids' lives, and it make a lot of parents happy too.
right. So we got NYCHA here, Commissioner. So we're gonna hop on a Zoom tomorrow. We're gonna dig down in what is the issue. We're gonna list out what the issues are, and we're gonna dismantle each one of those issues. And if it's a leaking pipe, that makes no sense. It's gonna get fixed. If it's whatever needs to be done, we're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it done. Okay? You have my word. We're gonna get it done.
Okay, next table we have Ed, table number 8.
We had a tremendous conversation over here. In the interest of time, I'll keep it just to one question. The question is, education and school programming is key to public safety and healing our youth. Why are we seeing public schools budgets cut, especially in Bed-Stuy?
And the chancellor can speak with the programs, and we need to really get this clear on what's happening with the budget, because we heard it over and over. People say, okay, our budget is cut. Here's what happened, and here's what's going on. We've had a substantial decrease in student population that determines what's called the fair student funding. Every FFSF is 100% is going to be funded. Every amount that's allocated per child is going to be funded. Last year, we stated the substantial drop in student population is going to change the allocation that is given to us as a city for fair student funding. So we told everyone, the previous administration told everyone, the numbers are going to change. There's going to be less money because you have less students. If you have the same amount of students, you're going to get the same amount of money. We didn't cut it completely. We said, nope, we're going to only bring you down 3/4 of the way instead of 100% of the way. We're going to bring you down 3/4 so you can adjust. We can wean you off of the new numbers. And we're saying next year, we're not going to cut you off 100%. We're going to cut you off 50% of the way. But the reality is our numbers have dropped. We're losing students. They're no longer in the system. And so we have to adjust to what the new amount is based on your students. And we're giving our principals, our superintendents, the time to make the proper alignment. Because the real danger is the federal government is going to look at how many students we actually have, and they're going to change the entire federal government allotment, and we are going to have no control over that. That's why we have to get our students back into the school system. Any school that is in an emergency state, the chancellor has made it clear we're going to be there for them, but we all are going to have to adjust based on the number of students, population we have in our school. I don't know, we're down to how many thousands we've lost?
We've lost 120,000 students in the last 5 years from New York City schools. So, I mean, you heard the mayor say earlier that the black community in New York City, the numbers that we have lost over the last several years, it's reflected in our school population as well. So it's an unfortunate reality that we're dealing with. So we've got to do everything we can to try to work to get those numbers back up, and we're going to be doing that. And one of the things that we're doing is we're engaging dozens and dozens of community-based organizations who are going to be starting real work with us next year in September. And these are a lot of black and brown organizations who have kind of been on the sidelines in the past. There had not been any funding really provided for them to do this work. And a lot of them are just doing it, volunteering their own time. But we've lined up ways to help those organizations lean in a much bigger way. And you'll hear more about that. The mayor will be having a press conference as we get ready to start the next school year. There'll be a lot of other organizations from our communities who are going to be leaning in to help.
Excellent. Next table is Tony Herbert.
Mr. Mayor, how you doing? First, let me just say I'm honored to serve as your Brooklyn Borough Director right here, because we know this is going around the city, but it don't move unless it moves in Brooklyn first. So to all of the leaders here, I'm honored that you guys are a part of the borough that I have to represent, and I look forward to serving you all under this mayor and his community affairs unit. So, Mr. Mayor, our table is pretty engaged because we have some stalwarts who have been around for a long time, the likes of Mr. Bruce Green and Terry Coaxum, and then you have the organization Bevo that also sits at our table. And they've been in the street, and we've been in the struggle. As you know, we've turned in guns with some of these very organizations out in front of the precincts. So one of the biggest concerns was definitely the kind of like the synopsis of what's happening here, public safety. Officers also in our community, the question was, how can we get our community officers? I know we have our NCOs and we have our community affairs officers, but how can we get our regular officers engaged with the young people in our community and not stand on one corner while they're on the other, and actively engage them so that there can be some positive dialogue? Then also, how can the city affect the negative behavior on social media? Because that is actually what's working against the positive that we're doing if we can't get a hold of these individuals that have these particular sites. And then also they talked about youth engagement, civic internships with some of the city agencies. They called for the city to work through these agencies to get our young people engaged so that they can understand how the city works. And lastly, active grief counselors that can come into our communities, and you've always said it, to get out there and deal with the victims in our society, who are actually the families of victims, the families of individuals who have been either killed or subject to some type of form of violence. How can we work with those families that everybody seems to forget?
So I'll take the first question. I was going to do this at the end, but we can do it now because I think it's so important that people know who represents them, know who's responsible for their community. So I'm going to ask the commanders of the Brooklyn North Commands to stand, please. 7-3 Precinct. I know we all know and love Terrell Anderson, but he's not here. I think Carol Hamilton is here. Please stand up. 7-5. Harridan Marillion, I think he's here as well. No? Gone. All right. Making excuses for him. I'll look for him later on. 7-7, Tony Brown, D.I. Brown, stand up, please. 7-9, Inspector Scratch. 8-1, Glenn. 8-3, Captain Santabria. 8-4, D.I. Rana. 8-8, Malcolm. 9-0, Vasquez. 9-4, Fahey. Housing Boroughs. We have Inspector Jesse Lance, that should be here. PSA 2, Gil Hippolito. PSA 3, Birchwood, Captain Birchwood. Stand up. Stand up. All of you, please stand up. Now I want everyone with collar brass, a patch, a blue shirt on, any representative of the NYPD to stand up, because the mayor mentioned that when a principal or a superintendent walks into a precinct that we should know who they are, but you should know who we are too, because we're your NYPD. And we are charged with making sure the youth have someone to talk to, making sure that they are engaged. And these COs, these community affairs officers, are responsible for that, and we hold them to that standard. We have a new deputy commissioner for community affairs. We are holding them accountable to make sure they're out of these programs, make sure they're at Saturday Night Lights, make sure they're accountable to these communities. But you should know who they are because they work for you. So we intend to make sure that's well known, and we intend to hold them accountable. Thank you all for standing up, and thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it.
I want to just mention one thing as well, just to connect with what you just did, Police Commissioner. We want to ensure that all of our students, particularly at our high school level, it'll start earlier than that, but certainly our high school students should be civically engaged. Brother Tony Herbert, you were spot on. They need to understand how city government works, but they won't do it if we just say it. We have to put a system in place that will inspire them to do that. Think about it, very few young people, very few of these high school students who ever show up at a precinct community council meeting. Those meetings are held every month. That's where they discuss all the issues that are happening in that precinct. And the people who are usually there are seniors, folks who are a handful of folks who just really are very engaged. You rarely see young people at any precinct council meeting. We're going to change that. So at the DOE, we're going to be putting systems and structures in place, working through our superintendents and our principals to ensure that our young people are actually showing up at those meetings. They need to understand what's happening. Their community planning board meetings, they don't even know that those things even exist. But once they do, and they begin to understand how this city actually functions, get ready. That's when you will see change, when young people understand. We're sending them to school and they do the routine of the day-to-day stuff that they don't even know what this stuff even means. But if we start to measure their success in school based upon their understanding of how this city operates, they start to understand not only that they need to vote, but why they need to vote, why they need to be engaged. And we can do that through the school system being directly connected with the city government, with NYPD, and all of these other agencies. Young people need to understand how all of this works. And I can tell you right now, they have no clue about how this works. But if we can change that, that's how you change mindset, that's how you'll change behavior, that's how you change the city.
Yeah, and that is part of what Deputy Mayor Wright is doing with our 100,000 summer youth employment jobs. You know, if you could just talk about, you know, what we're doing with all these youth are going to go through due to summer youth employment.
So one, they get paid, which is great. And they're going to be working across the city. We have across all of our agencies, 5,000 spots. We have 800 people working at the NYPD. Our parks commissioners hiring hundreds of people just across the board. They're getting financial literacy training once a week. They're going to get exposure. They're going to go to the UN. They're going to go to Brooklyn Navy Yard and do a tour. They're going to do one of the NYCHA farms. They're going to have a wonderful, enriching experience. So we want to continue to build that and grow that as we move forward.
Yeah, I just want to add, and I want to give the NYPD a real major shout out. Literally, they have 800 summer youth participants, the largest in city history, that are going to be working for the summer youth program at NYPD. So the investment is there.
Well said. Tony, speaking on behalf of what you were talking about, the social media, let me tell you something. Social media is destroying our children, and they're doing it from afar. You know, when people heard me talk about drill rap, it wasn't drill rap. It was the form of drill rap where a rapper would kill someone and then belittle the friends and family members of who they killed and force a retaliatory shooting because of that. That back and forth is really tearing the Bronx apart. You know, a lot of these shootings that are connected to what social media is doing. Now, social media says we're going to take Donald Trump off Twitter, but you're not taking people off Twitter that's killing young black and brown children. So where's the urgency? We have to be consistent with our urgency. And that is why we are saying we're holding social media accountable for what we are seeing on social media and how it's being used all across this country to fuel a lot of the retaliatory shootings and retaliatory violence that we are experiencing. Tony, you're dead on for that question, and we need to zero in on it. Y'all know me, I'm up all night, but you know, we know we gotta bounce, you know. So listen, this is one of many. We're hoping that many of you will break into smaller groups and relationships and know each other, because this is, you know, Brooklyn. We're gonna do another with just the youth, but we are encouraging you, no matter what we do, we should bring 1 or 2 young people with us, because it's hyper-local to make this happen. So on behalf of my entire team that's here, we want to serve. We're committed to service, and we're committed to making sure that we put the city on the right path, particularly in the area of violence specifically, but in general, to make sure that our agencies are producing the quality product that you deserve as citizens of this city. So thank you for coming out, for spending time with us today. I know that the air conditioning was a little too cold today, but we want to thank Boys and Girls High for a great job. Nelson Mandela Academy, thank you, appreciate you.
And also to make sure that the note takers will collect all the notes from each table, and there's going to be a follow-up and accountability. So I'm asking all the note takers to bring up the forms.
Yep.